Set of P770 TaylorMade irons, KBS Tour 120S. Customer bought these clubs used with the aim to retrofit them to the correct shaft he wants. He came in on Friday and we did a fitting, and he's chosen Aerotech steel fibre, regular 95 gram shafts. So first job of the day, pull standard shafts. The glue that TaylorMade use isn't particularly high temperature setting glue, so I can do this by hand with the blowtorch. I rotate the club so that they heat evenly, and through doing these lots of times, I know once the ferrule just starts to bubble, the glue is loose, and that's it. Head comes off. Set those to one side to cool now, and I'll come back to those in 10 minutes. Customer's also going to save the grips. Nothing wrong with these grips. Grips are very difficult to come by at the moment, so we'll pull these. Sometimes this is a job that goes really simply, and sometimes it's a horrible job, but in the scheme of things, it saves the customer. These grips are probably £15 each now, so again, there's nothing wrong with them. We can pull them off these shafts. They're perfectly good to reuse, as long as we don't stretch them too much when we're removing them, which again, been doing this for a number of years. Quite confident that these will come off. There are certain full cord grips that I wouldn't even attempt this with, because the cord keeps the grip on so tightly that you just can't remove them safely. There we are. That grip, once we warm it up a little bit, it'll reset it down. They've cooled off, grips have been removed. Next job is clean the hosels, ready for the new shafts. I tend to use the top of a blade just to clean out right at the very top of the hosel. TaylorMade would have used a stepped ferrule on these, and when you're removing the shafts, sometimes that plastic can melt into the very top of the hosel, so I tend to tidy that through the blade, and then a rotating wire brush in and out, gently tapping out whatever's in the hole. I can see that one's not cleaned right to the bottom, so I'll put that to one side. That one might just need a drill to clean up the glue that's right in the bottom. Basically, the wire brush only really removes all the sort of the loose. The glue goes quite powdery when you heat it, and that's what the wire brush does. I won't force the wire brush to remove glue that's not melted at the bottom of the hosel. That's a good clean pull. I can see TaylorMade insert a weight at the bottom of the hosel when they build these. Generally that weight is impossible to remove because it's a tapered weight, and most likely TaylorMade heads tend to be quite light when they come from unbuilt, so it's quite likely that we'll need that weight in there anyway. With this rebuild, we're using steel fibre Aerotech shafts. They're not ones that are counterbalanced in any way. They tend to swing weight. If you're building the same length, they tend to swing weight the same as the steel shafts that you pulled. Irrespective of them being in this case 25 grams a shaft lighter than the KBS 120s that we're pulling. That is one of the great things as a builder with the steel fibre shafts. They do build very much like they're a steel shaft. So next phase now, all the heads, hosels have been removed, shafts from shaft rack, and I tend to set them out, longer shaft, set them out in order of the build, so I then know, visual check, which shaft is going in which plug. Obviously, they all look the same. They're dedicated lengths, so I know that the shortest one is pitching wedge. Steel fibre shafts, they're kind of tip prepped. Good fit in there, so I know now some 80 grit. I just rough the bottom of the shaft. Doesn't need a lot on these. You're not removing the paint, you're not removing the wire, which is obviously where the steel fibre gets its name from. I know this set is being built to standard length, so I'll start off with taking this over to the ruler and measuring it to standard length, trimming it to the length, and then we would then swing weight it. So I've just cut the shaft to the required length. This is a standard set length bit based upon a 37-inch 7-iron. And my first cut for the pitching wedge, and obviously the heads are pre-weighted. This is coming out at D4, which isn't horrible for a pitching wedge. I'm currently, I've cut that at, just check my notes, I've cut that at 35.75 inches. So by the time we add the grip to that, it's gonna play about 3/16 longer than standard. And the reason I cut them just that fraction longer to begin with is because if that was a really light head, then the thickness of the butt cap, thickness of the cap of the grip is all it takes just to get that swing weight in the acceptable region. I'm aiming for about a D2 swing weight on these, so I'm most likely going to trim these that 1/4 inch shorter. Customer's not very tall. He wasn't having any problems finding the centre of the shaft, finding the centre of the club with them at standard length, so I've got no reason to change that. But what I will do now is I'll double check the other end of the set, and if that swing weight is in line on the 5-iron, then I can go ahead and just trim the shafts a little bit shorter to help with the feel of the expected. The 5-iron with the shaft cut at 38 inches before grip, that was swing weighting a little bit heavier. It was about D2.5, and I'd like it to see a little bit lighter than that for this player's swing speed. So we've taken those 3/16 off the shaft to allow for the final playing length to be 38, not 38 plus the grip cap. And that's brought the swing weight down to D1. I've gone back to the pitching wedge and also taken that 3/16 off, and that has now brought the pitching wedge swing weight D2.5, which I'm very happy with. So I'll continue to match that through the set. The swing weight gets a little bit heavier as the club gets shorter, and then we'll come back to ferrules and epoxy. The length swing weight's checked, and we're on to epoxy. Quite cold in my workshop. In fact, I'm going to be creating a second workshop here at the studio in Fenton Barnes, into one of my smaller rooms, so that for gluing clubs, etc., we've got a good constant temperature. At the moment, you might be able to hear it in the background, I've got the heater, which will keep the clubs at a good temperature while the glue is setting. I use a 3M acrylic epoxy. I've been using this for a number of years now. Very quick drying time. Drying to the handling time is very quick. So these clubs today, just jumping ahead of myself. Glass beads in the epoxy. They help to add some sort of roughness to it, which gives the epoxy just a bit of grab, particularly on a shaft like this that's got a printed label on it. I want to line up that label in the right orientation. So those beads, I don't know if you can hear, there's like a bit of roughness when it goes in. I align the steel fibres with the R to the front, because that's the least writing. And then a tap on the floor to make sure it's seated properly. Double check that that's R to the front, just to rotate a fraction. And that just sits there. So here we are, back to the final phase of this retrofit. Customers' existing grips going back on. 2 wraps of tape on these. So we do the first one, goes on. Pull it tight so no wrinkles. That one goes in. Second wrap is full length. Leave a bit over the end. Smooth it out again. We don't want wrinkles in the tape. Gripping spirits. Good squirt in the club. Soak the tape nicely. Make sure the butt cap of the grip is seated properly. Check the grip has gone on fully by matching it up with a grip that's not on a shaft. And then we do a final check for the alignment looking down the club. And that's perfect.